What's up everybody, and welcome back to another Coffee 101 with Blueberry. Today we're talking about how roasting coffee affects the final flavour. So the first thing people think about when they are looking at coffee is how dark or light that coffee is roasted. Now, when we look at the coffee on a scale of light to dark, it doesn't really tell us much about how much that coffee is going to taste. On a basic level it does. If it's a light roasted coffee, you should expect higher acidity and more floral fruity notes. And if it's a darker roast, you're going to get those caramelized flavors. You're going to get heavier mouthfeel, maybe some bitterness in there, lots of sugar, lots of sweetness. Now, we can't really just look on a scale of light to dark, because you could have a 6-minute roast and roast it to the same degree of color, or you could have a 14-minute roast to the same degree of color, but those coffees are going to taste completely different. So just by looking at the color, you can't really tell how that coffee's been roasted and how it's going to taste. Now, if you're roasting really slowly, you're going to get lots of sugars. All of your acidity molecules are going to be turned into sugar molecules, and you're going to get really sweet, maybe some bitterness in there. And if you're roasting really short, you're going to get high acidity, but maybe the sweetness and the sugars haven't come through yet. So you're going to not have that balance. So there's a sweet spot. And obviously, depending on what your preferences are, your taste preferences, this is going to affect what coffee you like and what coffee you don't like. Another thing to consider with roast level is how you're brewing the coffee. You know, you're going to want to brew coffee differently than when you're doing espresso, than you're doing a V60, for example, and the roast needs to be different. You know, you need less acidity in an espresso roast, because that pressure and that concentrated drink that you're going to be making with an espresso, if you have the same acidity level than you would find in a V60, it's going to be too acidic. You want a bit more sugars, which means it needs to be roasted different. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be roasted to a different degree of color. It could mean that you are making the roast longer, and that's bringing out more sugars and maybe dampening that acidity more. So there's lots of things to consider. The best advice I have for you is to go speak to your local roaster and also try loads of different roasters. Ultimately, every roaster is going to have their own style, and they're probably going to do things consistently once they find their style. So once you like a roaster, then maybe buying coffee from them is a good idea. But obviously, I would recommend that you try lots of different coffee all the time from different roasters. You never know what you're going to like. Sometimes we like a nicely medium roast from Blue Bottle. Yet in the UK, we drink very, very light roasted coffee from places like Kelowna, or Triple Co roast in Bristol, or from us. You know, we roast really light here as well. You know, we're looking at around an 8.5 minute roast for a filter coffee, whereas in America they're probably looking at 10 to 11 minutes for a filter coffee, and even further for an espresso. There's no one way to roast coffee, so what I would do is just experiment. Also, another thing as well is that every different coffee is going to need a different profile. So a really dense Ethiopian washed coffee is going to have a lot of acidity. So you're going to want to dampen that acidity and make sure you've got enough sugars to balance it out in your roast. Whereas a Guatemalan might not have much acidity, so you're going to have to roast those coffees very differently. There's some really great books that you can learn more about coffee roasting if you're interested. There is Rob Hu's Modulating the Flavour of Coffee, and there's also The Coffee Roaster's Companion by Scott Rao. These are two great books. You can find them in the links. You can find the links in the description below. And we're also going to be doing more roasting videos in the future, more in depth. This video is just a 101 basic video explaining the difference between light and dark, or a slow roast and a long roast. We are going to do another blog post as well on our blog. We have got a blog post already. We'll put the link in the description below as well for that. So thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe, hit that like button if you liked it, hit that dislike button if you didn't. Make sure you share it with anybody who might find this interesting, and we'll catch you next week for another Coffee 101 video with Bruno Berry. Thanks. Peace.